Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3Iron, and today we are talking about our guild plans and my personal plans for the 3.9 expansion and league that will drop for us in just under 2 weeks from now. We're just a few days away from Metamorphosis League dropping on December 13th. And for those of you who are veterans of the channel, you know that I play typically every other league, softcore or hardcore, and then I alternate between those two options. I originally started playing Path of Exile as a hardcore player only. That was where the people who were teaching me how to play PoE played, and so that was where I played as well. So you'll see that a lot of the times in my build advice and in my build commentary as players ask for build advice, where I almost always default to a hardcore mindset, like, hey, how can we get more survivability into the build and more consistency, rather than just getting high highs and then suffering low lows, like, hey, what can we do to essentially provide some more stability for builds? Well, anyway, as I was learning and growing in my PoE experience, I wanted to play a lot of different builds that weren't necessarily hardcore viable, and I wanted to expand and grow out from there. So I want to say right around Abyss or Harbinger League, I started this kind of every other cycle of leagues, and it's been really helpful whenever I've had kids. I and my wife have had kids, just because that basically means that for 9 months while she's pregnant, I don't know when I'm going to drop the game, because gaming time also becomes helping wife time. But then, of course, once new baby comes, pretty much the first year is also gaming time becomes helping baby and wife time. So anyway, so I started this whole concept of kind of alternating leagues and bouncing back and forth. And generally, when there's a new baby, I don't necessarily get to bounce back perfectly in between the two, because when you go AFK in softcore and you accidentally die in maps, it doesn't really feel that bad. When you go AFK in hardcore in maps and you were helping change your baby's diaper and you come back and you just see Resurrect in town, well, that's pretty depressing. It makes for a funny story, but it's pretty depressing in the moment. So anyway, long story short, that brings us to 3.9. 3.8 in Blight League was one of my hardcore leagues, so that's when I personally participated in Hardcore Trade League and had a blast playing Blight. I mostly played one particular build. Where is it? Here it is. The Strength Stacking Thick Zombomancer, which we originally came up with for 3.8. We built this as a Juggernaut because of Juggernaut's amazing endurance charges and defenses and consistency. Anyway, but we played it as a Baron stacker. I've got items and all this stuff on here. All of these links, as always, will be linked down below. Anyway, that was the vast majority of what I played, and then I also played a Poet's Pen build up to like mid-80s and had a pretty good time with that, and I played a Scourge Arrow character and had a pretty good time with that. So that was hardcore for me in Blight. In Softcore League, which is what Metamorph League will be for me, it will be a very, very exciting time to interact with the trade market. And one of the things that I've done over the last couple of weeks is I've just gone back and taken a look at all of our most popular videos, the style of content and discussions that you all appreciate. Looking back a year ago, it's going to be a year on Christmas Day that we released our most popular discussion video of all time, which was how did one player solo farm 3 mirrors. And we released that on Christmas Day. I wasn't sure if anybody was even going to watch it. I think we had less than 1,000 subscribers at that point as a YouTube community channel. I think there were like 25 or 30 of us on Discord at that point. And here we are a year later, almost 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we've got well over 400 members on the Discord channel. So it's really, really cool to see how we've grown and how we've changed. But I've learned a lot, we've learned a lot as a community about the different sorts of things that we all like to do in Path of Exile. So with all that being said, I went through and I looked at a year ago, and this was just fun just to look back. Like a year ago during Betrayal, here was our playlist, which is just a compilation of all of these different videos. But we had hideout updates coming in 3.5. We had private leagues announced. We also had the Lancing and Shattering Steel skills come out in 3.5. We had the brands come out in 3.5. We had Scarabs added to the game in 3.5, and then I believe we had one other. Oh yeah, by the way, Betrayal as the master missions recapped in 3.5. We did a Smeagol reads the patch notes in 3.5. We did a whole bunch of really, really fun stuff. We talked about lab enchants. We talked about splitting loot in XP parties, how to play support, what your goals would be for the upcoming league. Anyway, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We tried out a whole bunch of stuff during 3.5 just to see what it was that everybody would enjoy talking about. And definitely the number one thing that people enjoy talking about right here in our community, yes, is builds, and yes, is economy. So with that being said, one of the things that I'm going to be doing for 3.9 for Metamorph League is I'm going to be playing Softcore Trade League. At some point, I've said this to myself for the last year, I'd like to league start SSF, but I'm just not going to do it this year. It's just not going to happen. I don't think I'm going to have the time to be able to play for an extended period of time that I would like to make progress in SSF at the level that I'd like to make progress. And, oh, by the way, I really like the economics of PoE, and so if you play SSF, you pretty much take a lot of that away. So I'm going to be playing Softcore Trade League in Metamorph League, and on top of that, many of you who are community members or guildies have heard how we have done hedge funds in the past. So what is a hedge fund? We'll have a video coming out later on this week about how to run a hedge fund and how to essentially pool your currency together as a party or as a guild or as a community in order to further everyone's goals all together. So we'll talk about some of the ups and the downs of that, some of the processes that you can go through to make sure that everybody's held accountable, that nobody is stealing one another's currency. One thing that I've said in the past is never trust anyone, including YouTubers and streamers or content creators. Never trust anybody by just giving them stuff and expecting that they'll give it back. Like, PoE is just a world where nothing really is account bound that's tradable. So if you trade something to somebody, they could end up scamming you. So that's something that we'll talk about as well, is essentially scam prevention, which in a word, the word is, hey, never put anything into a bank that, at least for PoE purposes, never put anything into a guild bank that if it just disappears, it's unrecoverable for you, right? That you just go, oh, I can't ever recuperate and I'll be done with the game. Never, essentially the investor's proverb, never invest something that you can't lose, right? So think about things that way. But we'll chat more about that later on in the week as we talk specifically about hedge funds. But that is something that is coming again for the Metamorph League. So I'm pretty much just going to be sitting at my computer for the vast majority of Metamorph League, either pushing 1 or 2 characters along to where I'm happy with them, or I'll be making trades pretty much all day and observing the economy and making videos that relate to and discussions that relate to the economy and the morphing economy of the Metamorph League. So that's pretty much the goal for us. Now, some of you have had questions in the past about, hey, Iron, how do you choose builds when you're coming up to a league? The reality is that we don't have patch notes yet. So, with no patch notes, I get really critical of myself and others that release builds prior to a particular league launch. Now, in the past, I've done some discussions prior to patch notes just to say, hey, here are some things that we think might be strong. So I think I'm still going to do that next week. And one of the reasons why I like doing that before patch notes come out is it actually essentially gives us a benchmark to say, hey, here's what we thought going into the league would be strong, and here's what we got right, here's what we got wrong, and here's what we can learn from moving forward. And so I've liked doing that in the past just as a beneficial thing for me, if for nobody else, if for me to say, hey, these were the things that I went on record and said I thought would be strong. And sometimes I'm completely wrong. Sometimes we might get lucky and hit something right on the head. So we will have some build guides that will come out. Of course, we're going to continue with our featured build discussion each and every week, where we are going to feature various builds and various mechanics for your viewing pleasure and discussion pleasure. And this week we've got a good one that is coming up for you as well. Those are planning on coming out every single Friday US time. And the reason for that is so that way then players who want to play and can only play on the weekends can have something to check into and to check out while they're considering a build option. And it also coincides with league drop dates. So typically PoE drops their leagues on Fridays, at least U.S. time here where I live. So one of the reasons why that's nice is that means that anybody that's still looking for a build on the day of the league drop can go and look at the featured build and say, hey, maybe we'll give that a shot. So that was one of the thought processes behind that. Other than that, we do have lots and lots of discussions that we're planning on doing, including economics, including builds, including, of course, hot topics that we're all discussing in the community, which, of course, looking at this list from Betrayal and from our popular videos, I want to say it was, 11 months ago that we discussed Lab Hellman Chance, and that got 21K views and a bunch of people discussing it. It's been 11 months and we still have no answer to the big question and to the big complaint, hey, what are we going to do with Lab Hellman Chance, and is there ever going to be any way that's, I don't know, modified or updated for the lab? So PoE 2 is definitely going to look different for getting ascendancies. We know that, but in between now and PoE2, what are going to be the options and how are things going to look and how are things going to be different. Anyway, so we've got lots of discussion topics and discussion types that we've got planned for this upcoming league. Of course, builds, of course, economics, of course, hot topics. But then if there's other things that you want to chat about or you want to see, of course, I'm hoping to stream a few sessions over the holiday period and over Metamorph League. The trick, of course, during the holiday leagues is that there's just a lot of family time and a lot of family engagements for us and for my family, and so it's just tough to set aside a whole bunch of time and say, yes, I'm going to dedicate streaming. That being said, those of you who have tuned into streaming in the past, thank you so much for doing that. If we stream during Metamorph League, or rather when we stream during Metamorph League, it will probably be a very, very trade-focused stream. Okay, you will see me just making trades and just looking across the boards at where there are markets to hit and how to move currency, and of course how to be running a guild hedge fund live while it's happening. So less gameplay, as it were, of slaying monsters and seeing skills goes off, and a lot more hideout visitation and profit currency flipping and profit margin finding. So that's very thrilling to me. Hopefully that's thrilling to some of you, but that's what I'm going to be doing for a lot of Metamorph League. So hopefully that answers some of y'all's questions about what the plans were for the guild and for me and for builds moving into Metamorph League. Again, we'll have videos that are coming out over the next couple of days discussing build predictions of what's going to be meta and what's going to be strong in Metamorph, along with discussions on guild hedge funds, along with predictions for the economy coming up. And then, of course, once the league drops, we will just go haywire from there. I would strongly, strongly recommend, if you're new to the channel, that you like, subscribe, and ding the bell, just so that way you can be notified about all of those wonderful different discussion types that will be coming down. And then, of course, I also strongly recommend that you join our Discord, because we make announcements on there, we post various news posts, oftentimes faster than the PoE Discord, because we've just got members all over the globe who are awake at various different points in time. So whenever they see anything go up on the forums, sometimes we get to it before the official PoE Discord does, which is really fun to see just the enthusiasm that there is inside the G3 community. So anyway, thanks so much for watching and for your discussion and your participation down below in the comments. I look forward to reading them and engaging with you, and I really look forward to this upcoming Metamorph League, because I think I'm going to have the most fun probably I ever have had trading. I've got a couple of new trade tricks up my sleeves, as it were, that I'm very excited to try out. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I hope today is the day. A Mirror of Calandra, well, maybe not today. Maybe League Start. How about League Start? I hope that League Start is the day that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.